Welcome. Where to begin?
Well,
so much going on. Different front pages this morning. The Times have got universities to lose cash if students claim asylum. Not particularly surprising that loads of students have been coming to this country and staying over the student visa and claiming asylum.
Exactly.
Palestine action plot to swamp the police. This is this terror group who apparently are going to try and overwhelm the police. Front page of the Daily Mail. Asbestos kills more troops than the Taliban. This is a national disgrace of how these Ministry of Defence homes where they live are toxic. And then one on the front of the Sun. A racist fan dies in gig plunge. A lot of people said to me last night, I can't believe that the concert went ahead last night. After the night before, a guy literally falls from the top tier of Wembley Stadium, crashes to his death on a concrete slab on the ground, and they just go, yeah, we're really sorry about that. Anyway, the show goes on tonight.
It did. It went on last night.
Yeah.
I don't know how that could have happened on Saturday night. I mean, Wembley has hosted how many thousands of hundreds of thousands of concerts.
Yeah.
It seems terribly, terribly sad, doesn't it? And it seems to have only come out this morning, that one.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the rest of the papers, Mike, it's all coming down to this burning tinderbox, whatever you want to call it, issue.
Yeah.
Of migration,
right.
And of what on earth and how the government are going to get a handle on this. I mean, okay, fine, they cannot, and they can just let it carry on like this. And I think we've seen a slightly, well, I think the weekend was very busy with asylum protests,
yeah.
But I think it's been slightly quieter because of the kind of greyer, wetter weather. But honestly, as things warm up again, I think we're still going to see a lot kicking off in August.
Yes.
And this is happening, as you say, all around the country.
Well, it's all over the place,
and
isn't
it's
it?
a very clear picture to me when you look at, say the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf. Why were people being moved in there? Oh, I think it was Friday or Saturday night at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, it was Friday night into Saturday morning, yeah. A whole load of men getting off a coach.
Yes, in flip-flops and things. I mean, clearly asylum seekers being moved in under cover of darkness.
Yeah.
Yesterday, women who were literally wearing pink.
Yeah.
They were mothers, grandmothers
yeah.
and children wearing pink.
Yeah.
Yes, they were holding England flags. Last time I checked, that wasn't a crime.
Right.
Of course, then you get the right-wing thugs. You get the dodgy ones coming in and wrecking the protest for everybody, and then the police start doing their two-tier thing. But I think the picture is very, very clear that local residents, that mothers, that grandmothers, that women are not feeling safe in these areas, around these areas,
right.
and that is what they are expressing.
And they're being very clear about why they're doing it, and it's not about violence, and it's a very peaceful demonstration, and people are asking questions now as well about what the police are doing there, because the police were moving a lot of the women off the road, so you can't stand on the road, and deliberately being difficult. We're going to be playing some videos later on through the course of the show this morning about many of them talking to us and saying, look, this is why we're doing it, and saying to the police, look, we're not moving. Yeah. Because we don't want these people here. Exactly.
And I was outside the Thistle Hotel in Clerkenwell, which we've talked about lots, on Saturday, and the police presence there was absolutely huge, keeping the two sides apart. Why? Okay, so I'm sure you saw the photographs there of migrants inside the Thistle filming on their phones outside, filming us all, laughing. What were they filming for?
And like blowing kisses and things, right?
Yeah, and more. Yeah, exactly. What are they filming? Are they filming to send back to their mates to say, look at this is what we get in Britain. We're in a hotel and this is what's happening outside. They thought it was absolutely hilarious. I was talking to this older lady. Honestly, Mike, she's lived in the area. She was in tears. A white woman lived in the area. She said she's got all members of race, colour in her family. So it's not about colour. It's not about racism. She said, I'm not racist, but I don't feel safe with my grandchildren sitting in the square. There's an area just by the hotel called King Square, and it's a real white working class, well, actually mixed community, but people have lived there forever. What they do is the flats are around the square, and there's a splash pad where I take my little boy all the time. The little girls now can't go in the splash pad. They can't go in the sandpit. They can't run around in their swimming costume anymore because they are surrounded, and there are groups of young men, and they don't feel safe. And that is the reality of it.
And that is the reality of it.
People are not even anti-migrant. They are just anti these people being plonked down in the middle of their communities.
Because they've weaponised it. You know, it's been the government that is to blame here. You know, you might even say you don't blame the people for coming here, but to have them shipped around to all sorts of parts of the country,
in the numbers that they're in, 800, 900,000 a year.
Exactly right.
Of new people in this country, the pressure on everything. And these people were saying to me, we can't afford to live here. Look at everybody around us. New build flats all around these areas, Clerkenwell, in the middle of the city, near the Barbican. people being housed in these areas, big families being housed in these areas, when the rest of us are paying our rent, paying our mortgages.
That's exactly right.
Trying to, you know,
trying to make ends meet, and they're getting free food, they're getting free money to spend, they're getting doctors if they want to see them.
And to say that these men can't work, well, there were hundreds upon hundreds, until the police came in a few months ago, hundreds upon hundreds of Deliveroo bikes, Uber Eat bikes outside this one specific hotel. I mean, it's not hard to work out what they're doing.
Let's have a look at the Britannia Hotel, because there's some footage we've got here of a delivery driver attempting to leave. Now, it's not clear whether this guy is staying in the hotel. Doesn't really matter, but there's some demonstrators outside of it blocking him from leaving and just saying you can't leave. We don't want that to happen. And there was obviously instances where there was, you know, food was arriving at the hotel, people were booing because of that. Similarly, again, you have this guy. Then later on, you get an Uber Eats driver gets actually a police escort out of the hotel. Now again, it's not clear whether he is working and delivering to the hotel or living in the hotel and working illegally. But Nick Timothy, the Tory MP, actually put this out and said this is what it's come to. The police are now giving an escort to somebody who's more than likely an illegal worker in this country. So do they even know what the law is? What are they doing?
And there is a lot of protection, around the asylum seekers.
It's now your human right to drive an Uber Eats bike, is it? You know, that's what has to be protected, instead of the people's right actually outside who don't want there to be criminal activity going on around and about where they live.
Exactly. And now we've got pro-Palestine action planning another day, a big day of protest next Saturday. So this rolls on and on
and on. It does.
Even though they've been banned, there's an appeal about whether or not they are a banned organisation. And they are, you know, coming together. And I just think this is... The government have clearly not got a handle on what is happening.
They clearly don't know what to do.
If they are doing things under cover of darkness, you know, they don't have a policy. They don't have a plan.
No.
They're calling hotels all around the country. Can we move them here? Can we move them there? Last week we were talking about the military bases that they're trying to put back into commission and trying to house asylum seekers in, you know, disused military bases, even though they said they wouldn't do that.
And that's the thing, you know, everything they say they're not going to do, like everything else in this Labour government, they end up doing.
It's dishonest and it's last minute and it's reactive and it's U-turn and it seems panicky. There seems to be no clear direction.
Well, no, I mean, yesterday one of the things that happened outside of the Canary Wharf Hotel was that after the disturbance from, you know, the so-called right-wing thugs, and I've got my doubts as to whether they even are. I don't even know whether they're right-wing thugs or whether they're left-wing thugs pretending to be right-wing thugs, because that's how mad it's now become, right? Many of them had, like, smoke flares and they were, you know, roughing up people. They were not letting people in and out of the hotel. So the police basically said to them and said to everybody, there's now a dispersal order and a ban on anybody protesting here for 28 days, right? And various lawyers and MPs started saying, hang on a minute, you can't ban people from protesting. So the police then, about an hour and a half, 2 hours later, came out with this most ridiculous thing, which, if you can make sense of it, you know, you're a better man than I am. Metropolitan Police said this: we have not banned protests outside the Britannia Hotel, International Hotel. We continue to encourage those exercising their lawful right to protest to do so responsibly. Anyone who crosses the line from lawful protest into criminality can expect to face police action. Which basically says that, yeah, we have actually banned protests, but not for everyone. We've banned it for some people, because apparently the law says you can only ban people under this particular section of the law if you're telling them. So, like, if I tell you, you can't come back tomorrow, or you can't go back for 28 days, that affects you only. It doesn't affect anybody else, so other people can come and protest. So the whole thing is a mixture of a shambles. And nobody knows what's going on, you know?
No, absolutely. And what amazes me, I mean, we hear way too much of nonsense from Keir Starmer, but we never, ever, almost never, apart from these pathetic statements about, oh, we'll arrest people if there are more than 80 people on these illegal boats. What, more than 80? So if there's 81, it's illegal. Anyway, we almost never hear from our Home Secretary, who should be in charge of keeping the country safe, along with the Prime Minister.
Well, I mean,
what is she doing? Where is she?
The big news at the weekend is that they're going to crack down on people putting out messages on TikTok and social media. So that's illegal, but coming to the country without permission is not.
This is the problem, Mike, and this is the problem with the front page of the Times, this thing about universities. Universities will lose their cash, lose their funding if students claim asylum. You know, these sort of so-called universities where people come and they sign up on a student visa, and it's basically, I mean, you see them around London. They're like a door on Oxford Street, and it will say International College, University College of Bloomsbury, you know, specialising in this, and you think that's not even a business. It's like a Turkish barber, that kind of thing. But this is the problem. You know, universities, crack down on universities, crack down on boats with more than 80 people, crack down, or even digital IDs. These are all kind of performative things. They are not actually taking action.
No,
this thing
they're
about
not stopping people from coming.
They need to stop, but also the people who are here process their claims and deport people who are not here legally. What is so hard about this?
Well, you know what they're going to do, though. They're going to process the claims quicker, and then they'll tell them they can't stay, and then they'll appeal, and then they'll stay for another year, because that's what goes on.
And they'll stay another 5 years, and then their families will come over.
Yeah, the one story that really has wound a lot of people up is this story about what's going on in Nuneaton, right? This is Warwickshire Police, who basically covered up the backgrounds of 2 Afghan asylum seekers who've been charged in the alleged rape of a 12-year-old girl in Nuneaton itself, right? They believe that unrest would break out like what was seen in Epping, where an Ethiopian asylum seeker staying in a hotel has been charged with trying to kiss a 14-year-old schoolgirl, right? Big piece in the Mail today. Warwickshire Police have said they were following national policy in not sharing ethnicity or immigration status. How is that national policy? We live in what we like to think is a free country, right? So therefore we, as the public, deserve to know the ethnicity and the immigration status of anybody who is accused of a crime.
Of course.
Because otherwise they're withholding information from us, which is going to lead to even more people getting even more angry, right? And Chris Philp has weighed into it, saying the police must be open about who is committing these alleged offences and not try to hide it. Otherwise, we risk a repeat of the rape gang scandal, where horrendous crimes were covered up because of the identity of the perpetrators. Why have they not learned?
This is when it leads to accusations of cover-up.
Yeah.
Why are we not being told?
Yeah.
It is a matter of public record, is it not?
Well, it should be, but if they're concealing it, then it's not an act of public record, and therefore we cannot find out about it, and it will be the same as all the Afghan people who came here under the Afghan resettlement scheme, you know, tens of thousands of them, who we never knew about because the government, and in the first case was the Tories, and then secondly the Labour Party, didn't want us to know. It's outrageous.
It's absolutely outrageous. And this is when we get into people being pushed into conspiracy theories about, you know, cover-ups and who's who.
Well, apparently it's not a conspiracy theory.
No,
It's actually going on before your very eyes.
I know, but when you cannot even, when we are not even being told this stuff, when there's two-tier policing, when these decisions are being made based on, oh, we don't want to inflame tensions, or we don't want to incite violence, or whatever.
Yeah, well, too late, I think, for that is the thing.
Because they've created the situation in which people don't feel safe in their communities.
Yeah.
And they're being branded as racist.
And it's happening all over the place. There's a story also around this morning, another, I don't think there's a charge yet, but a Sudanese man, an asylum seeker, sorry, there is a charge. So he's been alleged of attempting to kidnap a 10-year-old girl. You know, and I'm sorry if there was one of these cases, that would be bad enough, but there's now dozens of them all over the place.
I cannot tell you the number of mothers I spoke to on Saturday, and I'm just going to say it, who said, I'm not letting my little girls out. The men stand in the flats, they film on their mobile phones. They film the little girls.
Yeah.
I'm not mentioning their ethnicity, but these are the asylum seekers in the asylum hotel.
They're illegal migrants.
And people who've lived there for 40, 50 years, who bring up their families there, the little girls are being watched all day long in playgrounds, in splash pads, in paddling pools. Yeah. It's just horrific.
It is horrific. And by the way, the phones they're using have been paid for by you and I. So isn't that great? Emma Woolf is here. It's 19 minutes past 6. We've got plenty more to talk about. Loads of you got things to say. Please do let them come to us in a variety of ways. You can text us at 87222. You can find us at Talk TV on X. And, of course, you can leave us a voice note. 0344 499 1000. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:22. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. It is Monday, the 4th of August. There is a storm coming to parts of the country. The advice is keep your doors closed, apparently. That's what they're telling us. We don't know quite how bad it's going to be, but up in Scotland, the wind's going to be very, very high. A couple of messages for you here. Sarah says this, near Plymouth, considering that Labour ditched the Rwanda plan and that it's obvious that British people do not want the migrant hotels or to fund them via taxation, how the heck are Labour going to run their next general election campaign? Well, you may well ask. It's quite difficult, isn't it? Mark in Croydon says, morning, Mike. This smash the gangs nonsense and chucking money at it seems to be the same as the US war on drugs. It will fail just like that until you cut off the demand. Remove the hotels and freebies and they will stop coming. It's simple. Supply and demand. I mean, most people can see that that's what you have to do.
Absolutely.
It's not rocket science.
And that's why these men were filming the deal they get. We know about the Albanian kind of adverts where for 12 grand you get a package deal, you get accommodation, you get employment when you're here, all of that. And someone else said to me at outside the Thistle Hotel, someone said, well, hang on a minute, in France they're camping, and they cross over here and they're put up in hotels.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
and they're looked after, as we saw last week from the footage we had from the
everything you need
from the hotel down in West Sussex in Crawley. You know, absolutely extraordinary stuff. Let's have a quick chat about what's going on in Palestine, because we've got the Sunday Times yesterday saying they're going to fly 300 children from Gaza into Britain to get medical treatment. They're allowed to bring their families with them.
Siblings.
They're allowed to bring dependents and siblings. They're more likely to probably having been treated here than claim for asylum.
They are very unlikely ever to leave.
Yeah.
Can I just
another
suggest,
great move by Keir Starmer.
This was really... Can I suggest that very sick children, if we are compassionate enough, and if only we weren't overwhelmed with illegal migrants, then we could do more of this kind of humanitarian thing. May I suggest that if they bring sick children over here, that they bring a group of children with medical aid, with a guardian to look after them, they are treated and then they're returned to their families. Why do they need to bring their families, siblings and dependents?
Well, because
that's when you get the problem.
It's a backdoor method of bringing more asylum seekers into Britain.
Of course it is.
And it's being run by people who are, you know, sympathetic, shall we say, to the Palestinian state. And it's another Keir Starmer nonsense, right? Professor Alan Mendoza, a man we know well from the Henry Jackson Society, has written a piece in the Mail today. Proof Starmer has given terrorists an incentive to inflict even more agony. Because, of course, one of the things that Keir Starmer's announcement last week has done has totally empowered Hamas, who are now refusing to stop fighting Israel until they are given their own state, including having Jerusalem as their capital.
Yes, and they are talking about his offer.
Keir.
Thank you, exactly. They are talking about this offer of Palestinian statehood as one of the fruits of October the 7th.
Exactly.
Did Keir Starmer not even talk this through with people?
He clearly doesn't have any ability to do that. It's not like anybody sits there and says this might happen as a result of what you're doing. Right?
But it's not even that complicated.
No.
It's very, very clear. Not even an own goal. I don't know what the word is. And we found out within hours or within days that it flouted international law, that it wasn't legally watertight, which for Keir Starmer is pretty appalling.
And it won't mean anything.
It won't mean anything, but also it's totally, as you say, completely empowers Hamas.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the announcement as he made it last week.
I've always said that we will recognise a Palestinian state as a contribution to a proper peace process at the moment of maximum impact for the two-state solution. With that solution now under threat, this is the moment to act. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
Yeah, so clever Keir Starmer manages to completely kibosh the whole situation, because not only does he say he's going to recognise Palestine, he says he's only going to recognise it if Israel doesn't do some things. So if Israel does the things he wants them to do, then he won't recognise them. So what does he want to do? Meanwhile, what's happened over the weekend since that happened, some horrible images have been published by the Hamas sort of propaganda arm of an Israeli hostage who looks emaciated, looks as if he's been starved, looks as if he's been forced not to eat, digging his own grave in a tunnel. His name is Eviatar David. It looks emaciated, digging in a tunnel, and they're sending this out because everyone says they've been empowered by Keir Starmer offering them statehood.
And how many times has one watched
absolute idiot
that announcement from Keir Starmer, and you're literally, I was yelling at the screen, like, what about Hamas? What about the hostages?
Yeah.
He says nothing.
I know. It is quite exextraordinary. And he does it in that kind of ridiculously clipped voice where he thinks he's making
He thinks he's being an international statesman. Yeah. I mean, talk about bungling, diplomacy, negotiation.
Yeah.
Every kind of prime ministership you could absolutely imagine, he manages to get this wrong.
Yeah, he really does.
Spectacular, really.
And here's his tweet from yesterday, because it's the Home Office who put this out. Under new laws, it will be a criminal offence to promote small boat crossings on social media.
Wow.
Well, it's already illegal to have the small boat crossings. That includes migrants paid by smuggling gangs to film their journey and encourage others to join them. Step by step, we will dismantle the business model behind immigration crime. Well, you won't, actually. And then here's what Starmer says on top of it. For too long, criminal people smuggling gangs have got away with using social media to sell the false promise of safe passage to the UK. I'm putting an end to it. Well, you're not, are you? You're not putting an end to it. 48,678 is the migrant tracker this morning from the year that Starmer's been in. For this year, from the beginning of January, 25,436.
Yeah, we're on track to be the highest year ever. This nonsense. Yes, we know these adverts are going out on TikTok. It's like he's read a few of the papers and thought, OK, we'll do that. It's another one of these tinkering around the edges thing, like cracking down on universities, that is not having any action. Do you think that illegal migrants who are making hundreds of thousands of pounds by shipping people over are going to be terrified and go, oh, OK, it's illegal. I won't put my ads on TikTok.
I know.
These are deals that are in Albania. This is how you do it. You give this guy your 12 grand, whatever it is. That's where he needs to be taking action.
Yes. And also, they already know they don't need a new law if they want to go after these people.
It's illegal.
It's not difficult to do it. You know, I mean, I was looking at some videos yesterday, which happen to be freely available on social media, of like Albanian drug gangs, Albanian people smuggling gangs having parties celebrating. There was one where they were going, "This guy's the greatest people smuggler in the world." You know. Very clearly, you can see who he is. You can see who's filmed it. You can see where they are. You know, these are not things that are difficult to stop if you want to stop them. But,
or you start here and you say to everybody who's arrived, who brought you over here? If you want to stay, you give us that information. You work backwards. There are many, many ways of doing this.
You would think so. Meanwhile, did you see the other story yesterday about Morgan McSweeney's family over in Ireland, who have apparently been, or his father, who's an accountant, has been working for a company
making quite a lot of money,
millions and millions of pounds, for housing asylum seekers in Ireland.
And this is Morgan McSweeney, who is
the so-called genius,
right-hand man. This isn't just, you know, someone in the civil service. This is his father, who's making millions out of the asylum racket.
I know. It is absolutely
really is shocking.
Absolutely extraordinary. Meanwhile, for those of you who don't worry about civil servants, there's a story that I spotted yesterday. The Mail have picked it up this morning. The Marsham Street HQ of the Home Office in Westminster, you can find a beauty salon, which is only for the people who work there, OK? Parlour opens during working hours, offers a Brazilian wax for 25 quid, spray tans for 24.50 and massages for 18 quid, far cheaper than nearby salons in the rest of London.
Well,
it's a perk, apparently.
Exactly. I can tell you, well, what are civil servants doing in working hours, by the way, getting their Brazilian wax? This is a lot cheaper than the rest of London, I can tell you that on those rates. Brazilian waxing, spray tans, and as you say, massages. But also, in another part of the papers, and I think it was the Times, they're also talking about how the really, really damaging and the really tough conditions for the health and beauty industry in this country. Small salons, which, OK, we might want all our young teenage girls to be going into academia, but actually loads of them are going and becoming hair technicians and nail technicians and all of that. It's a real trade for young women.
It's a good job for young women.
It's a great job, it's great training. Loads of people used to work in hair salons, you know, tidying up, cleaning up, whatever. As their training. It's a freelance job. They got really hit in the pandemic, and now guess what? They've been hit massively by the hike in taxes on small businesses. It's a very employment-heavy industry. You need a lot of people if you're running a salon. You need a lot of people on the ground. And the hike in national insurance is causing loads of hair and beauty salons to close down. So the idea that the civil servants are getting their free...
It's extraordinary, isn't it? You know, it's almost as though there's nothing that they can get right. You know, everything they touch turns to dust. It's rubbish.
Well, that's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah, it is. I'm afraid I have to be polite. Graham in Wrexham says, "Morning, Mike. I've had enough of Starmer's bleeding so-called good ideas to fix the migrant problem. He's run out of time and we don't believe him. He's useless. Get him out and get someone in who will sort it out for good. It is now beyond a joke." It really does feel like that. This one from WA, they're not asylum seekers. Stop calling them asylum seekers. They are illegal migrants. Well, some of them actually are asylum seekers, and that's the difference. Because if you come here legally, technically speaking, on a student visa or on a work visa, and you then overstay that, you are an asylum seeker. That's what you are. You might say that at that point you go from being a legal migrant to an illegal migrant, but it's not quite as straightforward as that, I'm afraid. But certainly there's no doubt that all the people coming here on small boats are indeed illegal migrants. And in fact, the small boats isn't really accurate either, because they're rather large boats now.
And also, it's not just boats. As we know, there are cars, there are lorries, there are all sorts of other ways that people are coming in.
Absolutely right. Let's get a voice note from Liam.
Morning, Mike. Liam from Kent. From watching some of the protests over the weekend on YouTube, I found that, you know, these really peaceful far left people, you know, the anti-racists and this, that and the other, funny, really, really funny, are they? All cover their faces up, they all had some lots of signs with some of them had some pretty nasty things written on them. A lot of them, though, obviously, as we all know, had exactly the same sign. And then all these supposed far-righters, no face coverings, lots of women and children, nice and peaceful. It's funny how the mainstream media perceive everything, isn't it? But thanks to you guys at Talk, we all know the truth. Have a great show, Mark.
Liam, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, it is really, really utterly disgraceful mess that this country has found itself in, and this government has made it a whole hell of a lot worse than it was under the Tories. No question.
Of course, and look, it would be dishonest to pretend that this is just of the last 10 months, 12, right. Well, more than 12 months now, so the last year and a half's making. We know that policy for the last 14 years and before, we're not just pretending that it's all on Keir Starmer, but people say over the last year, over the last 6 months...
It has got a lot worse.
It has got significantly worse. That is their experience. That is their lived experience.
Yeah. That's
entirely
correct.
You can keep telling people that they're racist when they're not.
Well, because there's a lot more people here now than there were even a year ago.
But significantly more people.
Yeah.
Where are they meant to be absorbed? And obviously they are going into towns. They're being put in towns and cities. And that is causing massive, massive pressure.
Yeah, and it's not just in places like, you know, London, Manchester, Leeds, Newcastle, where you would expect there to be kind of, you know, what you might call a kind of boiling pot of tension. It's in smaller towns like Nuneaton, you know, where there's now, you know, some people are being alleged to have raped a 12-year-old girl. You know, in other parts of Britain where an asylum seeker stroke illegal migrant is trying to kidnap a 10-year-old. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's mad. It's 6:35. We'll have loads more for you coming up after this. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:37. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is the home of common sense, here with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Emma Woolf's here with me as well. Morning, Mike. Serious question. Please tell me, who is going to pay for all these migrants when we, the taxpayers, stop paying? Genuine question, says Nan in Wales. Well, that is a very good question. Well, of course, the government will claim that they've got the money to pay for it, even though, actually, it's our money. Because they'll say, oh, the Home Office will give you £100 million. It's all government money, which is all basically taxpayers' money.
No, but remember, there's no money, but there is money for asylum seekers, there is money for foreign aid, and there is money to send billions abroad to Ukraine and places like that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There is money, but not for British people at all. Not for our school system, not for our healthcare system or any of that. And genuinely, Mike, we are trying to move on, but people are not. This is the thing. This is
the biggest story right now.
It is the biggest anger. When you talk to people, friends, colleagues, people in the media, people not in the media, this is what people are actually talking about.
Yeah, of course.
The whole time now they are talking about the state of Britain. And what people always say to me is, what is it, you know, OK, maybe we can't get him out, but what state is the country going to be in if this government
leaps on? He will not last.
Well, but you keep saying that, and I want to believe you. I desperately want to believe you, but I think that, you know, we see him getting through crisis after crisis, avoiding lie after lie after lie.
He's not really, because he's now the most hated Prime Minister in the country. He's the most unsuccessful Prime Minister in the country. The country is going down the
who replaces him?
Economically. It doesn't really matter. Anybody better than him. Anyone. Honestly. You know, a stone would be better than him.
Angela Rayner better than Keir Starmer?
Yeah, I would think that would be the end of the Labour government. You know, and that's what I'm looking forward to. That's the only thing I can look forward to. Meanwhile, let's talk about somebody to take our minds off it. Prince Andrew, front page of the Times, driving in Windsor, which is the only place he ever gets to drive. He's like, imagine being Prince Andrew. It's like, you're not allowed to go anywhere.
You really can't go anywhere.
You just drive around.
You've got to look shifty.
Drive around Windsor Great Park.
Yeah. In your Range Rover, looking really shifty and guilty and hated.
And there's a new book out about him, which is being serialised in the Daily Mail. Over the weekend, I was reading about how he'd called some poor hapless worker an effing imbecile because he refused to, because he referred to the Queen Mother as the Queen Mother instead of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. I mean, you know, what's wrong with the bloke?
Telling people at Ascot, do you know who I am? When they asked to see a perfectly, like, normal request to see a security pass.
Yes.
Chattering to people at dinner about whether women are wearing knickers or not. I mean, this guy sounds like an absolute... This is all from the biographies, I should say. This is all from the Andrew Lowney biography. They're having lots of fun with serialising this. Andrew Lowney,
And it talks about, in the Mail today, how Andrew acquired his secret millions. After being told he had no future in the Royal Mail, he was made a UK trade envoy, which I remember. And I remember people saying he was actually quite successful at that because people quite liked him going to their country and sort of glad-handing and hanging out with them, you know. Charles tried to block it, but now a new book by an acclaimed historian says he used the role to boost his own wealth and befriend despots, oligarchs and even an arms dealer.
Yeah, and he used his connections, his pitch to palace business.
Yeah.
There seems to be a very large sum, nearly £1 million, questioned over whether this was a present for Princess Beatrice's wedding. All sorts of questions swirling around how this lifestyle is funded.
Yeah, and then of course it was only a few months back, it might have been back end of last year, where there's the story about the Chinese envoy who he kind of managed to introduce into Parliament and introduce to various MPs and dignitaries who he was basically being paid off by.
Exactly, and in the background we can't forget the Jeffrey Epstein stuff, which is very much not in the background, but is absolutely causing him and everyone around him, and many people in America and here as well, lots of headaches and fears and
anxiety. Meanwhile, page 5 of the Daily Mail, Prince Harry last night denied claims he had a physical fight with his uncle Prince Andrew, because that book says that they were punches thrown when the Duke of York has apparently said something about him behind his back.
Yeah, and then apparently resulted in a bloody nose for Andrew, which I think we can all get behind.
Yeah, I suppose so. Well, I don't know who you would cheer on in that particular fight. I mean, I think they'd both sort of, end up punching each other out.
And I think that then Prince Andrew has been rather rude about Harry's wife. And by the way, it's the Duchess of Sussex's birthday today.
Oh, is it?
So happy birthday, Meghan. She's 44 today.
Right. Well, can we not call her the Duchess of Sussex, though? Because I believe that title should be rescinded, given that...
I believe it should be, yeah. Duchess of Jam.
Yeah, Duchess of Jam. Sarah, near Plymouth, says this: hotels, phones, money, crazy golf lessons, all funded by the British taxpayer. I'm surprised that the asylum seekers, and she puts that in inverted commas, need boats. Surely they can just walk on water. Yeah, you might well say. Here's one from somebody who says, I'm a taxi driver in York who has to run these asylum seekers around. I ended up kicking one out of my taxi because of the way he spoke to me. I asked, he asking if I had kids. I said it's not relevant. And then what really got me was, you may have your king, but we now have your country. I stopped and told him to get out of my taxi. These people from the hotel get free taxis up to Newcastle, £200, to Sheffield, £150, all paid by us. It isn't just the cost of the hotels, it is also the cost of the taxis. I want to leave this country for the safety of my family and children.
That is absolutely shocking. I mean, not only the cost of the taxis, but the way that he spoke to him and said, we have your country.
Well, this is the change, I think, that people have noticed as well. A lot of these people coming now are quite arrogant. They know that they can get away with murder.
That's why I mentioned the filming on the mobile phones, because there's a sense of laughing at British people who are saying, this isn't fair, this is not a level playing field. But also, there's not just the cost of taxis and all of that when they arrive. There's everything around it, all the translation services, all the kind of trying to help people speak English, trying to get them back into work. You know, we know about the kind of, free massages, free this and that. But everything about trying to get these people settled, it's a huge, huge financial burden
and
on
also
the
now that they're being moved into homes as opposed to hotels, which is also causing different types of problems as well, which is why they had the big protest in Waterlooville last week, because they found out that there was a whole building block which was new builds, flats worth 250,000 quid, occupied by illegal migrants.
And same in London.
Incredible.
And there are families who are not being rehoused, who maybe started out in a one-bedroom flat, now have 4 children, British families who've lived here all their lives, who don't have enough rooms for their children.
No, exactly right. And a waiting list as long as your arm. Let's get a voice note from Mark.
Hi, Mike. It's Mark in Durham. Just wondering, these illegals going out on the scooters, delivering pizzas and that, how can you get insurance if you're here illegally? And getting a police escort? Come on. Nah, it's, something needs doing. All right, keep up the good work. Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely right. And let's play this clip we've got here. This is from Isabel Oakeshott, who managed to acquire this over the course of the weekend. This is from the Britannia Hotel protest in Canary Wharf yesterday.
And what do you say to Keir Starmer and the Labour government?
Waste. He's ruined this country. Ruined this country. Nobody in England likes Keir Starmer.
And that is not a truer word said in jest. Well, we've got a longer version of that as well, which we'll play you in a little while. But coming up, we're going to tell you about something even more outrageous. They found this giant rat. And when you see the picture, and it's early in the morning, we're going to do it coming up next. Giant rat, 22 feet long. I'm trying to work out what that would be. I think it's about that long, isn't it?
Isn't that
22 feet? It's a couple of. I'm thinking of a 12-inch ruler and another 12-inch ruler. It's about that, right?
22 feet.
Yeah.
Isn't that? Do you mean 22 feet?
No, I mean 22 inches.
22 inches.
Yeah.
22 feet. I mean, that's
the roof.
Sorry, I'm very confused here.
Yeah, there it is. There. That's the guy holding.
That is absolutely disgusting. I couldn't look at these photographs.
Yeah. Yeah, 22. Yeah, sorry, not 22.
Oh my God, it's lying in a plastic bag. It's curled up like
it looks
a little
like a dog.
hedgehog or a dog.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's absolutely
huge.
vast, but that's not 22 feet.
No, sorry, you're quite right. Thank you for correcting me. I mean, I'm allowed to make one mistake 6:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
But also, worse than that, right? We've got some maniacs in London who want to reintroduce storks, right? Which are also, they're 3 feet tall, which is about that, into London. Right?
Absolutely
what are they thinking? They're probably rewilding of London. We'll tell you more about that coming up next. Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to very nearly 10 minutes to 7. Emma Woolf is here with us. We're talking about a great many things, including the discovery of this giant rat, which I must confess and must correct is not 22 feet long, but it's nearly 2 feet long, which is pretty big for a rat. It's got to be said. I mean, that's the size of a reasonably good-sized dog.
Where was it actually found?
Redcar, I believe.
No, but in someone's house, in the street.
Yeah.
It looks like, I don't want to look at the photograph there, but it looks like in someone's house or in someone's kitchen or inside their wall.
Well, you know, we've been covering this bin strike in Birmingham, and there the rats have been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's so much rubbish on the street. It's basically, it captured a home in the north of England, Redcar, Cleveland, by a pest controller. Conservative councils have blamed the Labour-run council for the supersized pet as they no longer handle domestic rat infestations.
And you know,
they expect residents to pay for it themselves.
But you know, when you hear like a little scratching, when people talk, oh, I think I've got mice, or I think I've got a rat, and you can hear it scratching behind the sideboard, behind the sort of skirting board.
Right.
Can you imagine the noise this thing must have been making somewhere in someone's property?
This thing's not behind the skirting board, it's in the kitchen making lunch. I mean, that's how big it is. You know, it's unbelievable.
It's literally on your sofa watching TV.
There's a picture of it, thought to be Britain's biggest rat, captured in a house in Normanby. And I've never seen anything like it. It looks about the size of a beaver or something.
It's the size of it. I mean, it's larger than a newborn baby. It's absolutely huge, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how much it would weigh.
But I mean, someone must have called in pest control and said, I think I need you quite urgently.
Yeah.
There's a massive rat in my kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't even know how you'd catch something like that.
That is just, well, they put it in a big plastic
I suppose it's a big enough. No, but I suppose you'd have to sedate it first, wouldn't you? You have a dart gun or something?
But it's like a dog, I suppose. Well, what would you do? You just corner them in the kitchen and grab them?
Oh, good luck with that. What, you want to corner a 2-foot-long rat and try and catch it with your bare hands? I don't think so. Are you going to throw a rat net over it or something? I don't know what you would do.
I wouldn't go anywhere near it, actually.
No.
I wouldn't even go into the property or into the town.
That is shocking. Absolutely
really
shocking.
Huge.
Meanwhile, the more ridiculous story, actually, white storks could return to London in a new rewilding project, which could get the go-ahead in the next couple of weeks. Apparently, they vanished in the 15th century due to hunting and habitat loss, but the white stork has been reintroduced in southern England, apparently. Lots of sightings. I haven't seen a stork for a while.
I haven't.
That's 3 feet tall.
Right.
So look, that's about that.
Right, look, well, it's all for, like, you know, wild spaces within cities and, you know, nice open parks and all of that. But there's a reason why London is a city rewilding.
Yeah.
Surely these storks, these massive storks, and they are, I mean, the wingspan is absolutely vast as well.
Huge.
I'm just worried with all the food and all the rubbish all over the streets, all the delivery food that's just left, and then no bins collected, really, in most cities. I am worried they're going to get very, very big and possibly band together with the rats and take over. It's just crazy.
Well, I mean,
storks are big.
They've also got very long beaks, right?
Yeah.
And if they decide to start attacking you, you know, you haven't got much defence against them.
And storks are the ones that bring, you know, in the apocryphal kind of tales, they bring the babies. So they've got the long stalk and then the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these are the same crazy people that wanted to reintroduce wolves into Scotland, right? Which really doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
Not a good idea.
Packs of wolves roaming the glens, you know, I don't think that's what you want. A couple of other stories to look at. Trains cancelled because it's too dry. You know, this is my favourite story of the day, really. About
it really is ridiculous.
Broken Britain. This is South West Trains, I think, who basically said it's been a very, very dry spell, and so somehow that makes the trains incapable of running.
Anything. Wet leaves on the line, dry weather, really wet weather,
no drivers, snow.
No drivers, of course. What are their other... Oh, wind. I mean, if it was to do with the storm, one would understand that it's not safe or whatever. But I think the too dry one is a bit rich. It hasn't
really
actually been that hot for the last few days.
Yeah.
Does it affect the tracks? Is it to do with the tracks?
They're saying they forced them to halve the number of trains that run from London Waterloo to Exeter St David's from a week from now. So it's nothing to do with even how it's been. It's to do with the
planning
future.
ahead.
So they're planning ahead.
They're getting their excuses in early.
They're saying dry conditions have forced a speed limit between Gillingham, Dorset and Axminster, Devon, because it's all dried out and the clay soil embankments that support the railways have all kind of, withered away.
But it hasn't been an actual drought. I mean, we did have a couple of heatwave spells.
Well, did you see the rain yesterday?
Did you see the rain last night?
Yeah.
I mean, hasn't that moistened up the earth a bit?
You would think. Most of the route west of Salisbury is made of single track with only a small number of places for trains travelling in opposite directions to pass each other. Track levels have been disturbed. Our trains cannot travel safely at their normal speeds.
In other words, we haven't been maintaining the infrastructure. We haven't been maintaining the network and the tracks as it should be. We haven't been looking at the embankment that, guess what, the railway tracks go over. It's a lovely journey, that, actually, isn't it, down to Exeter?
It is lovely.
And
apparently now you're going to be doing it a lot slower.
Well, yeah, you get more time to look at the view. We haven't been basically doing... It's a bit like the airport story from last week.
Yeah.
They don't check their systems.
They still haven't told us what that was about, have they? I mean, they just said it was a technical error, which may have had something to do with the radar, but they haven't actually said specifically what it was.
No, but some cyber experts are saying that actually that was quite dodgy, that there was more to that than meets the eye. That a tech failure wasn't...
Well, according to Heidi Alexander, Secretary of State for Transport, she said it was not in any way related to any kind of cyber attack.
Of course she said that.
Well, wouldn't it be better if it was, though?
Yeah.
I mean,
then at least they could blame them.
From the government's point of view, because then you can blame some kind of foreign actor.
They could blame all of us. Keep us in our houses for another 5 years.
And then say, be very careful. Don't want to, people are trying to hack into...
Don't fly abroad.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't fly abroad anyway because they're putting... how much are they putting on our... Net Zero is going to add, I think, £50 to the average cost of a... To the average cost of a holiday. Flights for them, but not for us.
Yes.
Holidays for, travel abroad for all of the politicians, all of the celebrities, but not for normal folk who want one holiday a year.
Right. If you can manage to do it. Yeah. I mean, a couple of stories I suppose we should mention on the front pages that we haven't got to yet. Front page of the Mail, asbestos killed 9 times more military veterans than there were British victims of the Taliban during the Afghan campaign. This is because of asbestos, apparently, which is inside lots of MOD homes. Yeah. It's an unusual story to go with today, but it's one of their campaigns. Over the past 9 years, since a military mesothelioma compensation scheme was introduced, Ministry of Defence figures show there have been 803 payouts totalling £112.5 million.
Isn't it astonishing to think back to that time when they genuinely thought that putting asbestos into people's homes, into school buildings, into hospital ceilings, into walls was safe?
Yeah.
It really is.
And again, just so that you know, the reason that these things happen is because the government took advice from people who supposedly were experts in what they were doing, but it turns out they weren't really. This is one from Lord Neil Kinnock on the back of handing over VAT to private schools.
And by the way, 50 independent schools have already closed.
So now Kinnock says that Rachel Reeves should start charging VAT on private health schemes. Brilliant.
Do they realise people who go private, often they've saved up for it.
Yeah.
Often they're completely desperate and they need a hip replacement because they're living in pain.
And they can't
they're on
get
a
an
3-year
appointment.
waiting list.
Yeah, exactly.
Often that's their life savings. It's an old person. Often they are, and anyone who goes private is relieving the pressure on our public health services, relieving pressure on the NHS. So guess what? Let's make it more expensive for them.
I know.
Because anyone with money, anyone who goes private for anything, for healthcare or schooling, must be filthy rich.
Yeah.
It's such
Politics
nasty class warfare.
It is. Politics of envy.
Absolutely.
Again. A couple of quick sacking stories for you. We've got about 2 minutes left. A teacher dismissed after internal investigation found that his online post had the potential to bring Preston College into disrepute. Guess why? Because he accused some two-tier justice in the Lucy Connolly case. He didn't even say that what she'd done was right. What he said was the way that she was treated was wrong. She should not have been jailed. He's now been dismissed after an internal investigation prompted by a complaint from a Muslim representative of the National Education Union.
So basically, schools cannot be a place to discuss issues of our day, social issues, discussing, maybe talking, making a comment on the fact that...
So he was branded Islamophobic, right? Now, nothing that Lucy Connolly said was Islamophobic. No. She talked about migrants. She didn't talk about Muslim migrants. She just talked about migrants. So, that's mad. And then there's a second story of somebody, a prison officer being sacked because he refused, basically, to call male-born inmates she.
Yeah, and there is also another story
blokes, in other words,
in the papers of a nurse who was completely hung out to dry by her union and by the hospital for misgendering somebody. It's a really, really kind of worrying direction that we're heading in, this kind of woke two-tier justice that we have in our society.
This is another one up in Scotland, in Kirkcaldy, in the Sheriff's Court up there. He said he was shocked to be dismissed from his job even before starting it. He's now taking the company to an employment tribunal on the grounds of unlawful discrimination and harassment for his beliefs. He says, I'm just a normal working class person who's never been in trouble with the law before. I've not got a criminal record. I've lived a good life. I'm prepared to go and fight and die for my country. He's an ex-serviceman. And then I've come back here and been told that there's certain things you can't think or say.
You can't think or say.
Like, you can't call somebody who is clearly a man, who was born a man, he doesn't want to call him she.
Well, I think that sacking must be illegal because of the High Court ruling
a few
months ago.
In which
claimed that a woman was a woman and a man was a man.
I know. Unbelievable stuff.